Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Truth About Marketing. Super excited to have my guest today, David Johnson. He's the co-founder of America's Home Offer. They're a leading real estate wholesaler across the United States. David, welcome.
Appreciate you having me on, Colin.
Absolutely. Why don't you go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself, about America's Home Offer, and what you guys do?
Yeah, man. Like Colin said, my name is David Johnson. I am 22 years old. I'm from a small town in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin, a town of 3,000 people. Started wholesaling real estate when I was 18. That's what America's Home Offer is. We're a real estate wholesaling company. And essentially what that is, we go to homeowners. We ask them if they want to sell their property. We get it under contract for a certain price. We end up selling it to an investor for a higher price, and we make the difference. So that's really what I do every single day. And yeah.
Awesome. So normally I do a lightning round first, but 22 years old. So I got to dig into that a little bit. So
Yeah.
22, you said you started it at 18. Like what made you get into this business and this industry? Like what was the impetus for that?
That is a great question. I was fortunate at the time to have a friend that was already doing it. So when I graduated high school, I could have went one of two routes. I could have played college basketball, or I could have moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, and started doing wholesaling. And fortunately, I chose wholesaling. Otherwise, I would have been in a college dorm just drinking beer all day long. So I wanted something bigger. I wanted something different. I knew out in Scottsdale there was going to be big players, a lot of people I could learn from that had the life that I wanted to live. So I decided to go that route.
Nice. Okay. Well, that's honestly a great story. And especially, I mean, I'm 35 years old. So 22, that's highly impressive. I mean, at 22, I was just getting out of college and
Yeah.
trying to figure out life. So I was running a restaurant at that time, trying to figure it out. So that is awesome.
Yeah.
We will jump right into the lightning round now. So we'll touch more on that in a second. But I'm just gonna throw out some questions, and you just give me like a quick 1, 2, 3 word answer, and we'll just keep it rolling. It's about 7 of them, right?
Perfect.
All right, cool. So first one, what's your favorite marketing technology?
Investor Lift. It's a off-market real estate disposition website.
Favorite social channel?
Instagram,
Least favorite social channel?
LinkedIn,
Brand with good marketing?
First Form,
Brand with bad marketing?
Bud Light.
That's the second person to answer that. Favorite influencer?
Andy Frisella.
Andy Frisella, good one. Very good
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
All right,
yeah.
and then let's do a wild card. What's your favorite podcast?
Real AF by Andy Frisella.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good. Big Andy Frisella guy, huh?
Yeah, I'm in his mentorship group right here, Arete Syndicate. So love him
Oh,
so
very cool.
much.
All right, so let's talk a little bit more about, from a marketing perspective, right? You're building this company, you started at 18. What were some of the initial things that you did to try to get that off the ground and really kind of get the business established and going?
Real estate wholesaling, it's really two things. It's sales and marketing with the back end fulfillment. And you have to market to sellers, right, that want to sell their house. And if you market to 10 of them, only one of them may want to sell, right? So um, learning the process of, what type of people we want to reach out to, whether it be, probates, tired landlords, absentee owners, really finding the bread and butter and trying to figure out what works. And you also have a low budget as well when
Right.
you're first starting off, when all the other big players are spending hundreds of thousands a month. So it was probably money and lack of experience.
Okay. And I mean, that's the
Yeah,
thing that a lot of people deal with today, right? They're
yeah,
bootstrapping, they're getting started. I mean, a lot of people that are probably going to listen to this are, agencies, they're just getting off the ground. So let's talk a little bit about the beginning, right? So you're 18, you're getting a business going. What are some marketing tools and things that help get you off the ground? I think a lot of times people are very interested or curious of, hey, I'm just getting started. How do I get the most bang for my buck? Or, what's a growth hacking strategy that I think I can start to feel good about right out of the gate?
yeah. Definitely PPC, so Google Ads, because people are coming to you, but also cold calling. A lot of people think cold calling is dead, but pulling a list of 10 to 100,000 records and having cold callers call those leads and having good quality conversations. I
Okay.
think that's really the game changer in our industry, is having good quality conversations and running PPC.
That's a very interesting point too, because I think depending on your industry and depending on what you're doing, the whole cold calling thing, right? Like I've worked in tech for a lot of years, and there's some times where you feel like you'll never get a lead or you'll never get a conversion based on a cold call, but then one day you'll pick up the phone and three or four come in, right?
Yeah,
And I think
yeah,
it's definitely a play by numbers, but when it comes to wholesale real estate, there also has to be, kind of right place, right time, or you caught somebody when they're in a financial situation where they're looking to do that. So talk a little bit more about what that cold calling process looks like for you.
yeah. So we have 7 cold callers that go through, I think, 20,000 records a month, every single month. So on the math on that's like 140,000 leads.
Yep.
So the more you have, obviously, the better it is, and the better chance to actually get somebody on the phone. But with the cold callers, it's you were completely right. It's catching them at the right time, at the right place, and that's why I like it, because we have so many of them. If we can actually get them, there's a better chance for us to close it, because if they're not answering the phone for us, it means they're not answering the phone for other people as well.
Right.
So that's why I prefer it. I definitely don't think it's dead. I think people just need to get the guard down of the people that they're talking to, because they have a lot of frustration of the past 50 people that called them, and it just
Yeah.
takes one better experience for them to change everything.
Yeah. And so talk a little bit too about when it comes to that cold calling process, is there any kind of sort of warm lead? Are you seeing any kind of like intent score, or is there
Yeah,
anything that you guys do to kind of grade out like who you're calling?
yeah, great question. So for me personally, and I'm different than a lot of people in the industry, I don't care if they want to sell right now or they want to sell in 90 days, or if it's super hot or it's cold. If they say, yes, I do want to sell, and they give any price and they want to sell within 90 days, I want that lead to have our closers call it,
Right.
because they do want to sell and they will sell eventually. It's just, who are they going to sell it to is the question. So if we can get them on the phone and we can give them a different experience than what they had from the last other 50 people, the odds of us getting it are a lot higher if we give them that good experience.
Right. And do you, I mean, obviously you pair that with other marketing strategies and whatnot. So what are some of the
Yeah,
other things that you utilize in tandem with cold calling? Like, obviously there's
yeah,
social, there's email marketing, but what are some of the other ones that are
yeah,
working specifically for you in wholesaling?
yeah. Texting is on fire. Texting
Okay.
is probably my favorite, or my second favorite marketing channel, because you can reach 20,000 people within the span of a couple minutes. But as of recently, they've changed rules and regulations. So you have to, it's a lot harder to get through now. But that just weeds out the competition, because a lot of people aren't willing to go through and actually, go through the process to get approved. But
Right. So we actually just had on my last guest from Christian from Venue Spike, we were talking about the whole text. A lot of restaurants and bars and things want to blast text messages out, and they're
yeah,
like, I don't care what the cost is, but there's also is an entire process around getting approval or consent to go ahead and send those text messages. And then from opt outs and things like that, if you send 10,000 text messages and 2,000 opt out, you have to pay for those 2,000 opt outs as well, because there's
yeah.
a follow up, right? So do you have any kind of formula, or how do you attack the whole text marketing game when it comes to the wholesale market?
Yeah, so it's really the same thing as cold calling. So we take that list of data that we have, and then we just plug it in to our SMS campaign. So a lot of times too, we'll take the list from the cold callers of what they called, and filter it out, right? So all the people that said no, we'll take the rest of the people and we'll enter them into the texting campaign, and we'll text them as well. So the best way to do it, in my opinion, is, we blast out, I think it's 1,000 an hour.
Okay.
And that goes from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock at night. And that's just kind of what we've seen works. And we also get a really good rate on it as well. We get 2 cents per lead. A lot of other people charge 4 to 6. So
Okay.
we save quite a bit.
And who are you using for your text like automation? Like what service do you use?
Yeah. Yeah. We use RooR,
Okay.
ROOR. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I
Yeah.
always
They're
like to
really
kind
good.
of I like to talk about the
Yeah.
technologies, because some people, I mean, there's all kinds of different, I mean, when it comes to
Yeah.
email marketing, there's like, 10 plus, there's the Klaviyo's, MailChimp's, Marketo, right? So RooR
Yeah.
is one I've definitely heard of before as far as texting, so that's good to know.
Yeah.
Um,
ROAR's great. And we've been using them for 2 years now. So we kind of get a discount since we've been there for so long. But it's really cool because it's also integrated with our CRM. So we don't have to go through ROAR to filter the responses. We can
awesome.
just go into our CRM and then it kind of goes in each category. If they said
Yep.
yes, if they said no, they said maybe.
And that's important too, negotiating rates. I think like,
Yeah,
it comes with that history. It comes with, even if you're a new business or your potential or, hey, how many am I going to send? Right. I think that's important. A lot of marketers, they kind
100%.
of will take something at face value. They'll say, oh, this is how much it costs. But if you have volume, if you have, a propensity to push a lot of text or if it's email, whatever it may be, you can definitely work on those rates. So just like for the
100%.
listeners, like definitely get with an account manager and make sure that you're talking to somebody who can help you negotiate a better rate because it definitely helps on margins, especially if you're blasting out, like you said, 1,000 an hour. That can get pricey. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, certainly.
And so today, how many deals are you guys doing a month or a year? Like what is that looking like for you now?
Yeah, so we did over 70 deals within a span of 8 months last year. And then year to date, I think we're at 40, if I'm not mistaken. So we do 40 closed transactions. So we still have a whole bunch of deals pending to go to the closing table. Um,
Nice.
but, on average, we do anywhere between 10 and 15 a month. But we might have to cancel some deals because the numbers may not work out.
Sure. And how is, I mean, obviously it's a topic, it's what's going on right now, but how is the overarching market or rates or anything going? I mean, with wholesale, I got to assume there's a lot of cash deals and things like that. So
Yeah,
are you seeing the
exactly.
impact or is it, how's that going?
Yeah, you definitely see it. It definitely has hurt a lot of people, and you have to work twice as hard now as you did a year ago to actually get a deal. But it really helps
Okay.
when you have good systems and processes in place. You have, great technology that you're using, and you have a good team as well. So all that combined together, it kind of helps where we currently are in the market. But in terms of the real estate market in a whole, interest rates are only going up. People don't necessarily want to sell because they locked in a 2 to 3% interest rate years ago. So if they sell it now and they go try to buy another house, they got to lock in at a 7% interest rate. You know,
Yep.
Granted, they could refinance down the road, but a lot of people don't want to do that right now.
And so you talked a little bit about, standing out from the crowd or going after and getting deals and it's harder to get them, right? So what are some of the tactics that you guys, you talk about text and whatnot, but that's a pretty direct, hey, are you looking to sell your house or hey, can we try to give you an offer to buy your house, right? Those kind of transactions. But there's a lot of wholesalers out there, right? There's
Yeah.
we know some in Scottsdale, like there's some that I know back in the Bay Area. What helps you stand out amongst other wholesalers? Like what's your differentiation?
Yeah, so we follow a five-step sales process that can never be broken. So within that five-step sales process, when we're actually talking to these homeowners, that five-step sales process will essentially allow us to create a different experience with that homeowner than anyone else has before. Because I'm sure you get texts, you get phone calls,
Sure.
yeah, exactly, right? So everyone calls you and they ask you right away, what's the age of the roof? What's the age of the windows? What's the age of the AC? And then they try to give you an offer. We don't do that. We don't talk about the condition of the home until 30, 40 minutes into the
Okay.
call because we want to give them a good experience and build rapport with them, get them to like us, trust us, and want to do business with them. Then we'll start talking about the condition of the property. But another thing that helps us stand out from the crowd is we have a bigger budget that we can spend on marketing. A lot of people just getting started only have a couple $100, so they have to drive for dollars, or they can pull a little small list of a couple thousand leads, but in terms of conversion rate, you got to go through more data points than that. So having a bigger budget, creating a better experience for the homeowner as well.
So that's a good point too, though, about budgets and budget size. And we talked a little bit about like bootstrapping, when you started. What's some things that you would advise against doing that people like they want to just get out, get going and be heard? But what are things that, I mean, maybe even an example of something that like you did that didn't work or was a waste of money so that like people can avoid doing that?
Of course. I think the worst thing that you can do is try to do this business by yourself. You have to build a team, because you can't sit down all day and make 200 to 300 calls and then get a deal and then try to sell the deal. It doesn't work out. So one, you have to build a team. It took me way too long to learn that, way too long. And another thing too, this may be a hot take, but driving for dollars, I think that is one of the biggest waste of times. So
And
what
so
I would,
describe that a little more. What is driving for dollars?
yeah, so I would get in my car. I would go to a bad neighborhood. I would drive around, look for houses that have grass up to the roof, boarded up windows, just a house that doesn't look good, right? Finding those houses, taking a picture of it, jotting down the address, going to skip trace the owner. So a lot of people do that starting off because all they really have to do is pay for gas, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how long it will actually take you to get a deal is absolutely ridiculous. Another thing is bandit signs. Don't do bandit signs. Don't do those because anybody now, because you've seen those signs, right? Sell your house for cash. Call this number on the stop sign. So a lot of people now, instead of just calling that number on a stop sign, they're just going to pick up their phone and they're going to type in "sell my house for cash."
That's interesting too. So like these are like
Right?
guerrilla marketing tactics, right? So there's people that'll
Yeah.
like, throw up flyers, they'll put up stickers like we can sell your house for this. If you stay up late enough at night, you can see these infomercials or whatever
Yeah.
of people doing that. What's interesting is, Ryan Pineda, who's got a really
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
following, like he talks about how he did that in Vegas and he had a late night infomercial. So I don't know. So you're kind of on the side of being against that kind of stuff as far as, hey, like we'll sell your home and trying to like just cast a wide net. You're more about the targeted approach.
So definitely driving for dollars. I think it's a waste of time. I think you should just stack money, stack a couple $1,000s in order to actually pull data and then just cold call the list yourself.
All right, David. So let's say you only had $500 in budget, right? So you're just getting going in this wholesaling game and you got $500. What would you do with it?
I would get the free trial for Prostron. It's free for 7 days and then $99 a month after that. I think you get 10,000 records for free within that 7 day trial. I would pull those records. I would get that list skip trace. It's going to be anywhere between 5 to 10 cents per lead. So I would get as many of those data points skipped as possible, and then I would call that list myself until
Okay.
someone says yes. Yeah.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
when you're cold calling, do you do like, is there any sort of automation? Are you doing like an email follow up, like anything in tandem with those calls, or is it just you can keep banging the phones until you get somebody?
Yeah. So for us personally, I know a lot of people are different. We have like 3 stages to our acquisition side of things. So we will text the lead, but we'll call it first. So we call the lead, then we text it, and then it goes to our follow up manager. Our follow up manager will call the lead, up to 20 times, and then it gets thrown into a drip campaign, and then
Okay.
it'll text that lead just about once a week for the next 365 days of the year.
Okay. So that you're kind of just trying to keep something out there. And if they bite, they bite. And, maybe now's not
Yeah.
the right time, but they'll have the constant contact from you to just, hey, when I'm ready, this is an
Yeah.
opportunity.
100%. And I think that's not just for this business, but for a lot of businesses, prospecting, right? Sales, high ticket offers. I think those prospects, or those potential clients, they want to do it. They're just not ready yet.
Yeah.
They're just not ready. So if we can keep our name in front of them for the next year, when they are ready, they're going to think of us first.
Yeah. And you talked a little bit about the difference of your experience or what other people offer. So, for you, how important is branding and when we talk about brand, it's not just, the graphics on my page and how it looks, right?
Yeah.
It's also, top to bottom, like your customer service, how you come across on calls. Like, for example, there's an art to cold calling, but there's also this element of like, hey, even if a cold call doesn't go well or it's not, ideal, you still want to have this kind of feeling or positivity that comes away from it. You'll get somebody who's at like a dinner party saying, oh yeah, I got a call from America's Home Offer and what an asshole, like how do you kind of navigate that too? Because again, there is definitely exhaustion from cold calling, right? Fatigue, cold call fatigue, if you will. So like, how do you manage that?
Yeah. So for us, it's like, for one, obviously we're giving them a good experience too, but we never leave the call in bad terms ever. because like you said, word of mouth is the biggest marketing stream there is. It's the biggest marketing stream there is, word of mouth. So we don't want Colin to have a bad call with us and then go to Savannah, right? And then tell Savannah how bad our company was and how bad an experience we had, because then Savannah is going to tell someone else and someone else is going to tell someone else. So leaving the call on good terms, even if we can't come to an agreement, still giving them that information. Okay, hey, I know this didn't work out on our end, but this is what I think is best for you to do. So
Absolutely.
X, Y, Z, whatever it is.
Yeah, the whole poison in the well thing I think is huge. Like a lot of marketers, I think what they don't realize is you get tunnel vision about like what you're responsible for, what you're doing, right? And you think, okay, well, I'm doing this well. Well, from an overarching perspective, it's important that all aspects of the business are committed to the same level of customer service, the same experience, right? So that you're not like, again, having this disparate, well, I talked to Sally and she was great, but then I talked to David and he was great, but then this other guy that I talked to, not so nice, or created a bad experience and it ruins the whole thing. So I think that's really important. It's not so much branding, it is reputation, right? So reputation management is huge.
It certainly is. And Andy Frisella actually taught this to me. And it was, imagine that one customer you're with is your only and last customer. How are you going to treat them? How are you going to treat them? You're going to treat them like they're gold, right?
Right.
You're going to make sure all their needs are satisfied, answer any questions that they have, and not leave a bad taste in their mouth when they're done with you, because that's all you got, right? So I think if a lot of people develop that mindset, for one, their customer satisfaction rate would be a lot higher, but also their business would continue to grow because the word of mouth would start growing because Sally had such a good time.
Right. And I think for you in that example, there's also just this element that you guys are doing high ticket sales. And so those customers are gold to you because you're not rifling through thousands or hundreds of thousands of customers. Like, to your point, if you close 40, 50 deals a year, you're making 7 figures. So those clients quite literally are gold. So I think that's great advice to anybody.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the most important thing is just, like I said, leaving on good terms. Because we've had so many deals where we didn't work out with someone, but they told their sister or their brother or their friend down the street.
Right.
And we got a deal that way. Right. Because they still had a good experience with us. It just, we weren't the best fit.
We had leaders that in the tech space, they just called it value chain, right? So like maybe the person you reach out to is not the one, but somebody that they know may be the one, right? So for your example in wholesaling, it's just kind of like, hey, that's great. You know, you're not in the market for wholesaling, but is there anybody that maybe you know that could be interested, or anybody that, you know, financially is looking to do something like this, right? And then that just opens up a whole new value stream of people. So for America's Home Offer, do you guys do a lot of advertising? I mean, like, again, I know that there's a lot of like very direct marketing strategies as far as going to people, meeting them where they're at. But is there also, I mean, do you do a lot of awareness advertising, or is it more just really related to making that deal happen?
Yeah, great question. So we have just started to dibble and dabble with PPC not too long ago for real estate, since it's a hyper competitive area. It takes about 3 months to actually get going and seeing conversions from it. So we're right there. It's one thing that I love. It's one thing that my mentors told me that all the top players in the industry have to do, right? Because everything's on the phone nowadays. And like I mentioned earlier, those are the best leads because instead of you calling them, now they're calling you. So the conversation is completely different. So PPC is really the only online advertising that we use. We've looked at Facebook ads before, but based off of the past experience from people I know that were running Facebook ads, the conversion really wasn't there.
Okay. And that's interesting and good information as well, because I think a lot of direct to consumers do well on Facebook, right? People are on mobile, they're flipping through pages, seeing, you know, getting down that spider web of social, just searching and whatnot. And, you know, they see a dress or they see a drink or they see something that they like, and it's quick and easy to just kind of throw $20 at something. So that probably converts a lot more. Something like wholesale real estate, that's a life-changing decision, right? So it's more than just 100%. A Facebook ad going to get you.
Exactly, because you're asking someone to make a $350,000 commitment, right? Off of Facebook. So on the flip side of Google, someone's typing in "sell my house now," right? That's about as hot as you possibly can get.
Right.
It's the hottest lead you can possibly
get. There.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So right now you have how many employees?
We have 4 in-house, including VAs. We have another 7 VAs. So I mean, total what's that? 11, but 4
Okay.
in-house. Yeah,
And so from that perspective, right, you're doing a lot. You're
yeah,
making cold calls, you're doing marketing, you're executing deals, you're closing
yeah.
deals, right? Like, there's all kinds of stuff that's going on with that. What are some of like the productivity hacks for you? I mean, you just mentioned VAs, right? Like VAs are a fantastic resource that a lot of people are using, but what are some other kind of productivity hacks that you are using today that helps you scale the amount of deals you can do with a smaller team?
I would say Investor Lift. I kind of mentioned it a little bit in the beginning, but essentially, Investor Lift it's a SaaS company that allows us to sell off-market deals. So instead of me all day setting up certain campaigns, email templates, Mailchimp, whatever it may be, I can literally post the address, asking price, and pictures on a website, and it sends out to, if I wanted to, every single buyer, investor, cash buyer, within that city. So
Wow,
that's
that
definitely
sounds pretty
some,
cool.
yeah, no, it's really cool. That's something that saves me a lot of time. And it also helps too because they're already vetted. So I don't have to go in and, have a 10, 15-minute conversation with them and figure out if they're legit or not. Someone else has
Yeah.
already done that. So definitely one of those. It saves me a lot of time.
So in your space, I'm sure there's some easier deals than others, right? So almost feels like fish are jumping in the boat compared to one that could take months and years, right? What are some of the differences there, and like how do you navigate that again from a marketing perspective, right? There's tools and tactics that you have to use to kind of keep getting those people, keep making touches and getting that deal to happen. Where other ones, it's like, hey, they just saw this, saw that, and it was a done deal.
So it's funny you say that because I actually think the littlest deals are the hardest deals to do, and the biggest deals are actually the easiest to do. So there's no crystal ball in what's hard, what's easy, what makes things hard, what makes things not easy. But those two things I would say kind of usually play out always the same. For us, though, we have really good SOPs in place. Our sales process is amazing, and our backside, right? So our transactional coordinating is always on point. So if there's any issues that arise, that we already know what to do because we've done it dozens of times, that those things are taken care of.
So obviously you're a big Andy Frisella guy. A lot of
Yeah.
people are. We have some mutual connections. Seems like just a super smart, very hungry guy. He's obviously changed a lot of people's lives, and he started that Arete Syndicate that you were talking about. Why don't you tell people a little bit more about that? Because I think it's a great opportunity. Like if you're very serious about marketing, sales, business ownership, I think it's a fantastic program.
Yeah. So Arete Syndicate is ran by Ed Milet and Andy Frisella. It's a private mastermind slash mentorship group that those two run. So every Wednesday we have a Zoom call with either Andy Frisella or Ed Milet, and they'll teach us a lesson. So each month there's a certain lesson. One month it was how to turn your business into a well-oiled machine. They're really big on leadership, so that was last month's topic. And really what they're doing is they're taking their 20 plus year of business experience and teaching it to people like us because it's no doubt Andy Frisella is a baller. He's got $1 billion company. Ed Milet,
Yep.
he's worth about 500 million. So for me personally, I wanted to be able to listen to those guys because they have what I want in life. And it was the perfect opportunity. Every Wednesday, I get to listen to game that they drop. That's not even really the best part about it. We also have a Facebook group where everybody in Arete Syndicate is in that group. So it's a whole network. We can ask questions about business, personal development, whatever it may be. And someone's going to answer that question because there's guys in there that, are only making 10 grand a month and there's guys in there that are doing 10 million a year.
Right.
So the community is really where it's at because you can leverage your network.
And I think that's undervalued too is, people talk about it a lot and they'll say, oh, mentors and get a mentor, try to find somebody that you can lean into. But there really is such a sense of community, especially for people who have made it, right? Because a lot of the times they come from somewhere that like they didn't start from a lot or they were self-made. And so like there's almost this sense of like, I want to help other people and I want to give back. So I still think like if you do overrated, underrated, right? I think Gary Vee does that segment. I still think that like communities and mentors are still very underrated because there's almost this
Yeah.
element of people like feeling like, oh, I don't want to act like I don't know something or I don't want to act like I'm, incompetent or anything like that. But it's like ultimately we're all incompetent at things. Like we all don't know. You don't know what you don't know. So I think that's really important. So I mean, that's super cool. I'm got to definitely hear more about that later. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
No, I completely agree. I think mentors are very underrated because it's really simple too. If you go find someone that has exactly what you want, right? The same business, the same lifestyle, whatever it may be, because there's people out there,
Mhm.
and there's usually a price to pay, right? Because it's not free information; it's years of hard work. But it cuts the learning curve.
Right.
You'll literally not have to go through so many mistakes, all because you're tuned into someone else, and you're getting all the information that they went through. So I think it's the most valuable thing in the world is mentorship.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So you're at 22 now, right? And you were 18 when you started. What advice would you give to somebody that's younger, that's just getting going, even if it's not in, wholesaling real estate? What advice would you give somebody just getting going, figuring out what they want to do? Because again, I started out, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. The first thing I did was PR. And I was drawn to that because it's conversational, it's storytelling,
Yeah.
and I just ended up clicking for me, right? So that's how I kind of got on my journey of getting into marketing. What was it for you, or like what drove you to get to where you are now, even at just 22?
That's a really good question, Colin. I'm really big on you have to become the version of yourself that wants the thing that you want to attract, right? So for me, I want to attract a certain lifestyle. I have to individually become that person that is deserving of that life. So it really stems from personal development. It
Yep.
truly, I think personal development is the most important aspect of which one can choose because you're not just going to wake up one day and have everything you want. You have to change, right? You have to
Yep.
change as an individual. So even still to this day, I'm still making changes in my life to get me to level up. And I always will have to because you have to
Yep.
become a different person. So that's what I would say. Try challenging hard things that make you grow.
So you talked about like having a smaller team, and that, you leverage VAs. What would you advise other people who are either just starting to use VAs, or maybe they only have used them in very like minimal capacities? I know it's important for me. I've leveraged them, but for you who is really starting to ramp up and scale with them, what would advice would you give people like using VAs?
You want to include them in what you're doing because otherwise they're just going to get burnt out and they're not going to give you the productivity that you'd like. So whether that be having a team meeting with them, recognizing one of them, right? Like keeping them involved and making them actually feel like they're a real human being. Because I feel like a lot of us can get sidetracked and just kind of forget about them because they're in the Philippines or they're in Egypt or wherever they are. We don't really give them that attention that they need because like it or not, they actually are part of our business and they're generating revenue for us. So that was one of the biggest things that I learned is incorporating them in what we actually do.
And what are the main tasks that you're using VAs for? I mean, everybody, you can use them
Yeah,
from everything from a personal
yeah,
assistant to creating lists to graphic design. So what do you guys
yep,
specifically use them
yeah.
for?
Straight cold calling.
Okay.
That's it. So what they're doing, all they're doing is generating leads and getting someone to say yes, they want to sell. Once they say yes, they do want to sell, it goes straight to one of our acquisition managers, and then our acquisition manager is going to handle it from there. But then it's just a rinse and repeat process
Okay.
over and over again.
And they're
Yeah,
very top of the funnel then, right? So they're just kind of casting a net and trying to get you
yeah,
something that you can work with.
yeah, yep,
Okay. I'm assuming since they're at the very top of the funnel, right? It's a very much spray and pray. Like they're hitting a lot of contacts, doing a lot of volume, right? Would you say though that a majority of the deals that you come in actually start that way, or is it kind of split? Like how impactful is that VA to the overall business?
yeah. Every single cold call lead that would come in is strictly from them. So obviously there's the different channels. There's the SMS that we talked about and the PPC that we talked about. But cold calling is our biggest channel. But to give you an example, we have 7 cold callers, right? 7 VAs, and they each generate 2 to 3 leads a day. And they're calling 10,000. Each of them is going through 10,000 records a month. So in a month, they're generating, 50, 60 leads each, which is really
Wow.
good because all you have to do is convert on 1 or 2 of those.
Right.
So they're very important for our business. Very important.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
again, when I say underrated, overrated, I think people still are VAs are underrated. People just don't leverage them
Yeah.
enough. I think they feel a little like they don't know what to do or how to interact with them or to get the most out of them. So, some of the pointers that you gave are awesome. And then also I just think there's just this element of trying things, right? That's what marketing is.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
ultimately you try things, I think there's definitely more experience involved in making those decisions of where you go first and whatnot. But at some point, everything hits kind of a wall or a ceiling, if you
Yeah.
will. And so you got to try something different. So VAs, we talked about, super important. Cold calling, super important. And what's interesting is none of these are real sexy, right? Like we're not sitting here talking
Of
about
course.
like
Yeah.
AI and innovative, uh, messaging and image generation and ads. We're talking about stuff that's foundational to businesses and has been for a very long time. Cold calling, emailing, text messaging. It's funny how, again, you're a successful multi-million dollar business like that. These are very foundational elements of marketing that you guys are using. So it's pretty cool to see.
And a lot of people think cold calling is dead, but it truly isn't. And like you said, it's one of it is the foundation of our business and a lot of other people's businesses as well, outside of wholesaling.
I mean, you heard it here first. So cold calling is
Yeah.
not dead, right?
Yeah.
As much as we don't like it or it's a muscle we don't like to flex very often, it's still a big part of business. It's clearly a big part of the wholesaling game. So don't give up on cold calling. Definitely make it a part of your marketing strategy, sales strategy. Awesome. So David, I really appreciate you coming on. This is
Yeah.
the part of the show where I give the guest an opportunity to ask me a question or anything, because I've been drilling you for a half hour. So if you have anything for me, go ahead and shoot.
I actually do have a question for you, Colin. Out of all of your experience in marketing, what do you say is the most effective?
I genuinely think it's just a mix of having a plan. Or here, I can redo it because you don't have to ask it again. When it comes to marketing, I think that there's no one shoe fits all kind of deal, right? So I really think that it's about identifying your ICP, your ideal customer profile or persona, right? And then creating a strategy around them that works, right? So that can be a mix of text messaging, social media, blogs, content, SEO. There's so many different things. For me, what I think works the best is when you understand exactly who your buyer is and what their journey is to get to you. So ultimately, that being said, I love building funnels, right? Now, funnels are going to take and utilize a lot of different aspects of marketing, but a funnel actually takes the buyer on a journey from top to bottom, top of the funnel, right to the sale. That can be a mix of an initial social ad. It could be a Google search. They could get it to a landing page. Then you give them an offer, follow up with a text or an email. Like there's all these different things that create a funnel. But ultimately for me today, people's attention spans are so short that creating that journey for them and actually giving them what they want or need is just so important. So just like you said, I think if you try to rely on just one thing and hammer just that, you're doing yourself a disservice, right? Like if you weren't using VAs, if you weren't using text, if you just did cold calling, not going to be as successful as your mix of strategies that you use. So I really think you guys are onto something there. Obviously, trying new things, implementing new strategies is always going to be awesome and fun, but there's a risk involved, right? So you said it earlier. Don't break if it's not broken, don't fix it. But ultimately, for me, I think getting back to the main answer there is using funnels, like really taking people on a journey. Thank you again, David, for coming on the show. It was an incredible conversation. I'm sure there's a ton of nuggets for people that are interested in this real estate game and also in marketing for real estate businesses. So fantastic. Again, David Johnson, co-founder of America's Home Offer. And also a big shout out again to High Level. Love being a part of their affiliate program. It's one of the best marketing software tools in the market today. I use it for all of my businesses. I use it for my clients with Cadre and also to develop and grow this Truth About Marketing podcast. So again, please subscribe to the channel. You could click the button down below, leave a comment, share it. We love to see it. Love to get engagement from the community. So we'll look forward to the next one. David, thank you again.
I appreciate you for having me on, Colin.